Ladies and gentlemen, good evening and welcome to tonight's City Council meeting and Committee of the Whole meeting. This meeting of the Geneva City Council is called to order, and I kindly ask our recording secretary, Ms. Dawkins, to please take the roll call.
Bruno?
Here.
Burkhart?
Burkhart here.
Ruby?
Here.
Caven?
Here.
Kilberg?
Here.
Maladra?
Lodger here.
Marks?
Mark's here.
Swanson?
Here.
Oh, McGowan? She's on vacation.
Great. We begin tonight's meeting with a Pledge of Allegiance like we always do. I'd like to invite Mr. Naylor to please lead us on the pledge.
Have to sing it or just speak it?
Speaking would be wise.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic which stands one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Tim. We do have some guests with us this evening, as everyone can tell. And before I turn the floor over to these guests, I would like to begin the meeting with, on a sad note, two issues that probably many of you are aware. Late last week, we lost a longtime crossing guard in the city of Geneva, Mr. Rich Nelson. Mr. Nelson was a crossing guard for 21 years at the intersection of Route 38 and East State Street. Based on my calculation, he probably saw thousands of kids traverse that street and back before and after school. And his loss is, of course, a loss to all of us. And perhaps equally as sad, not perhaps, indeed equally as sad, a longtime teacher in our community, Becky Furnish, passed away on Friday. Becky was a teacher for 41 years, 27 in Geneva. And if anyone here knew of Becky Furnish, her husband Larry, their two daughters, the grandkids, you knew that Becky not only loved teaching, but just loved being around kids. And her mentorship and her stewardship and her kindness and her love of all things Geneva, in particular the kids she taught, is a huge blow to this community. So we send our love to the Nelson family and we send our love to the Furnish family. And if I may, I'd like to begin the meeting with a moment of silence to let them know we're thinking about them. Thank you, folks. Under item 3, new business and public comment, we do have guests with us this evening. If no one objects, I'd like to recognize Mr. Naylor, who's representing those who are in attendance tonight, at least most of those who are in attendance tonight. So, Mr. Naylor, the floor is yours, sir.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Still say his name for the record.
Oh, I can. Good.
And Tim, we just ask you to state your name just for the record.
Yep. And did you say I can take my mask down? Speak or no?
Yeah, he could do
You're certainly welcome to.
Okay. Be easier.
Share screen. Share that screen. Share. And now you should be up. There you go.
Good. All right, my name's Tim Naylor. I live at 720 Westfield Course in Geneva. With me is, I'm one of 4 families here tonight going through this issue, so I'm kind of representing all of us as I speak. So, we want to first thank you for having us here tonight. We want to extend an extra thank you to Alderman Ruby, Alderman Kilberg, Mayor Burns, Bob Van Geisem, and Rich Babica of Public Works for helping us over the last 2 months. We're here tonight on behalf of a number of homes in the Geneva East neighborhood that in the past decade have flooded with sewage on multiple occasions due to the neglected maintenance and repair of the city's sanitary sewer system. The most recent occurrence in May of 2020 left over 10 homes with sewage in their basements caused by an overflow of the city's sanitary sewer, not once, but twice, on May 15th and May 17th. Here's a little clip to just give you an insight of what we were dealing with on that weekend. So this is my basement, and this was on Sunday, May 17th. So what you're seeing is clearly sewage. Just let this play for a minute. So in the videos and the photos you're seeing demonstrate the severity of the situation we've been dealt. We've been left with an endless amount of cleanup of both sewage and mold, never-endless battles with our insurance companies, and a revolving door of service companies at our house to address the issue during a time in which social distancing is a must. We're here tonight in an effort to bring light to an issue that has affected our neighborhood for well over a decade in hopes of a swift and effective solution. Aside from the damage to our personal properties, we've also been made aware of the amount of sanitary sewer overflows, known as SSOs, that are taking place all throughout Geneva. This issue, in the midst of a worldwide pandemic, has affected us in a way that we've banded together in an effort to uncover why this continues to trouble our neighborhood and why it's not getting fixed. We've talked with neighboring communities, sewer professionals, engineers, the Illinois EPA, endless amount of FOIA requests in order to educate ourselves as much as possible before tonight's meeting. A quick history of Westfield Course prior to the latest incident in May of 2020. Our neighborhood was constructed in 1989. In 1996, 35 homes were built directly behind us on Downing Place and Parker Court. These 35 homes, built 7 years after us, have a sanitary system that is pumped uphill via a lift station to our sanitary system, to our sanitary sewers. We learned from talking to our neighbors that dating back to 2008, similar situations have been happening, leaving multiple homes dealing with sewage backups into their personal properties. So just to reference the map real quick, the orange dots are those that flooded in 2008, and then you can see on the left side, 4 of those put in preventative maintenance moving forward, and 3 chose not to. In 2009, all sanitary manholes were inspected and rehabilitated as necessary. Also in 2009, the City of Geneva established a grant program offering homeowners assistance with the cost of installing an overhead sewer system. This grant, which is the same offering today, 11 years later, states that the city will pay 50% up to $3,000 for the installation of an overhead sewer system into our property. In 2010, sewers that were identified as having infiltration into the system on Geneva Drive were lined to prevent further infiltration. In 2011, 2013, and 2014, 4 more homes were affected by sewage backups, some of these homes getting backed up every year of those 3 years. In 2014, 6 years after flooding affected multiple homes on Westfield Course, the city began taking record of sewage backups on personal property in the fields of Geneva East. 22 known backups have been reported to the city and recorded since 2014. We say known because multiple complaints from the latest incident in May were reported to the city, but not recorded in the city log. In fact, since our original FOIA request in May, they reported 16 backups in May. We ran another FOIA request just recently, and it reported 22. So after bringing the situation of non-reporting to light, stuff starts magically appearing on the reports. Who's to say how many others in the past 6.5 years have been overlooked? In 2015, the city ordered testing to be done on the sanitary sewers in our neighborhood. 7 years later, after sewage backup affected multiple homes in 2008 on Westfield Course. This test in 2015, as reported by city officials, was conducted during a drought, therefore showing inconclusive results and never revisited for proper testing. In 2018, a repair to the lift station that pumps uphill from Parker and Downing into our sanitary sewer on Westfield Course was approved to have an unbudgeted repair of over $55,000. During this past May, 8 homes on our block received sewage backup into their basements on 2 separate occasions over the course of a weekend, and many more homes were affected in other areas of our neighborhood. In fact, if you look at this map that combines all the data from 2008 up to the most recent in May, you can see the scope of the issue. Again, many of these homes suffering from sewage backup time and time again. These aren't just one-offs, multiple times. After numerous complaints, on May 19th through the 22nd, the city assigned an outside company, Sewer Tech, to run cameras through the sanitary sewers in an effort to locate instances of infiltration or other obvious causes for our backups. We requested the footage, reviewed every second of the 29 videos provided, and found 20 unique cases of infiltration in our area. This video that you're watching was taken between 2 and 7 days after the rain we received, clearly shows a steady flow of infiltration. You can only imagine what this video looked like in the heat of the storm. This video was handed over to a number of city officials, and we received no response. Furthermore, this photo was taken of a blockage across the street from my house on Westfield Course when Sewer Tech made mention of it. For whatever reason, this blockage never showed up in any report and was cleaned out prior to the Sewer Tech running their camera through. When we emailed this photo to Senior Authority of Public Works, we were told the photos appear to show a pipe in near full capacity and not in a blocked state. This photo, for reference, the manhole on the right, which is in my front yard, shows no blockage. The one on the left is the one I referred to. So again, similar to the question above with the video, this photo was taken 2 to 7 days after the event. So what did this photo look like in the midst of the storm? To boil this information down into a brief statement, the fields of the Geneva East sanitary system has been neglected. The lack of proper testing, reliable inspections, and accurate reporting has resulted in the damage of countless homes over the last decade, and we hope you can see that. So I want to touch on SSOs. What's an SSO? So an SSO is a sanitary sewer overflow. It's when untreated sewage is discharged from a sanitary sewer into the environment prior to reaching a sewage treatment facility. This not only includes bypasses of the sanitary sewer into the streets, but also includes any sewage backup into residents' basement. Did you know that every year Geneva Public Works pumps hundreds of thousands of gallons of untreated sewer water into the storm drains, eventually discharging into the Fox River? On May 17th, this is to give you insight of what an SSO looks like. This is an SSO happening on the corner from me at Westfield Course. So it basically pumps it out of the sanitary sewer into the street, and it finds its way to the storm sewer, and then finds its way back down to the Fox River. Also during the event on May 17th, city workers left the scene of this SSO, leaving a manhole wide open, unmarked, and unattended. At a glance, this water can be easily mistaken for stormwater because it's clear. To the eye, it looks like stormwater. But when it's collected together, as seen in this video from my basement, it's easy to see that this black, contaminated water is truly sewage water. So from as far back as we could retrieve data, we found that from 2009 to 2015, just in the fields of Geneva East neighborhood, there have been 4 SSOs that have taken place, totaling over 887,000 gallons of untreated pump sewage water, which eventually discharges into the Fox River. And I'm going to keep repeating that because I think it's important. From 2016 through the events we had in May, there have been 13 SSOs reported in our neighborhood, the fields of Geneva East, totaling more than 1.5 million gallons of untreated wastewater eventually discharging into the Fox River. What's even more surprising is that of the 1.5 million gallons, 649,000 of those gallons were on those 2 days, May 15th and 17th of 2020. For visual reference, the main pool at Sunset holds 300,000 gallons of water. In those 2 days alone, we dumped 2 Sunset pools worth of untreated sewage water onto the streets of Geneva East that later discharged into the Fox River. What's even more surprising is that nobody knows about it. I've been here in a part of Geneva for 40 years, never heard of it. And part of it, I think, is when you see it, you see them pumping, you attribute the clear water to stormwater. So I never, until it affected me personally, I never had a chance to dive into it. Anyone I talk to is equally as shocked. Hydrant flushes happen all over the city. They post prior, this is a social media post, Geneva posts, hey, we're flushing fire hydrants. They put up signs at the end of streets that says Wednesday from 3 to 6, we're flushing a fire hydrant. Why aren't we ever notifying the public that we're flushing sewage water into the streets? I've got 4 kids. I had 2 pets. Those are the first people that are gonna jump through these rainwaters, and be affected by sewage water. Pulled from EPA.gov, the health risks of an SSO presented by the EPA state because SSOs contain raw sewage, they carry bacteria, viruses, parasites, intestinal worms, and inhaled molds and fungus. As a result, they may cause disease ranging from severity of mild stomach cramps to diarrhea and to more life-threatening ailments. Don't you think it's important to alert the people of Geneva when we're dumping untreated waste on the streets, the parks, the bike paths, waterways? Take a look at this Facebook post from what's happening in Batavia. As a city that sits downstream from us on the Fox River, could what they're experiencing have anything to do with the amount of SSOs that are happening in Geneva? Maybe, I don't know. In fact, in every notification report submitted to the IEPA, When an SSO takes place, the city is asked to describe what actions are planned to prevent or minimize future overflows or bypasses. In every cover letter we could uncover, dating back to 2015, that the city has submitted to the IEPA in regards to the SSOs in the fields of Geneva East, there is some iteration of the following. The city of Geneva has a long history of making improvements to the sanitary system by way of lining, manhole rehabilitation, point repairs, and mandatory removal of sump pumps. The department has televising equipment and sewer cleaning equipment and has a regular program for preventative maintenance and inspection. When pipe defects and areas of infiltration in the city-owned sewers are identified, the city has taken steps to correct the situation. So let me ask, is that accurate? Again, there's some iteration of that same exact paragraph dating back almost 6 years now. Are we making improvements to an area that has suffered from sewage backup on public and personal property for over a decade? Year over year, SSOs are happening more and more in Geneva East. The amount of SSOs has multiplied 4 times in the past 4.5 years than the previous 6 years before that. The city ran a sewer inspection during a drought in 2015. Are we doing inspections, repairs, cleaning as reported to the IEPA? From what we can tell and what we've been told, our sewers on Westfield Course have never been lined. This is a 30-year-old sewer with over 20 signs of infiltration, millions of gallons of untreated water dumped, an untold amount of personal property damage. Let's revisit the closing line of the action plan that we report to the IEPA. When pipe defects and areas of infiltration in the city-owned sewers are identified, the city has taken steps to correct the situation. So what was done in 2008 when multiple homes of our neighbors went through the same issue we're facing? If there wasn't an issue, why was a $3,000 grant established in 2009 to provide assistance with overhead sewers to private residents? If tests are done during droughts, as they were in 2015, how are we possibly to identify if there's any issues? It's mandatory that the City of Geneva files a report to the IEPA each and every time an SSO takes place. Further down on the report, it asks, where did the discharge from an overflow or bypass go? In the reports we have obtained, dating back to 2009, why is there no mention of the countless basement backups that have taken place over the past decade? In fact, what's even more astonishing is that Geneva's very own Capacity Management Operations Maintenance Plan, CMOM, which was put together in 2016, states in the very first line of the introduction, the permittee shall work towards the goals of achieving no discharge from sanitary sewer overflows or basement backups. A quick recap of the SSOs in Geneva East. Keep in mind, these numbers don't even include the countless basement backups that have occurred. In 2009 through 2015, one SSO occurred each and every year. 2016, Geneva established a CMOM plan that states we're working towards no discharges or basement backups. 2016 through 2019, numbers go up. 2020, 4 SSOs, 10 private residences flooded with sewage water. How can we say we're working towards no discharges or basement backups when the numbers continue to rise? So in closing, it's been brought to our attention that the city will be presented with an opportunity on August 3rd to rework the grant program for the overhead sewer system that was established in 2009. Through this process, we've had a number of quotes from licensed plumbers to have this work done, as we all fear of going through this again. The quotes we've received range from $9,000 to $17,000, and in fact, Dean handed me today, he got a quote today for a complete overhead sewer system was $22,000. That happened today. And this doesn't include any unexpected costs as far as lawn or landscape interior damage to install the system. Let me be completely clear. An overhead sewer, check valve, or standpipe does not fix this issue. As mentioned above, water flows by gravity. It finds the lowest point. While putting a backflow prevention system into my house may protect me, what it's really doing is pushing my issue off onto you or my neighbor, which has been done to us. With that said, and while we wait for tests and a 3-year-long study to complete, a backflow prevention system is what we need to gain a sense of security, a peace of mind about rebuilding our homes, and a chance to maintain our property's value. Because each home's layout doesn't accommodate a traditional overhead sewer, we need a choice as to what backflow prevention system works best for our home. I would encourage you to remember what we've shared tonight when presented with the opportunity to rework the overhead sewer grant program on August 3rd. Thank you.
Thank you very much. public comment? Anyone at all? You are right, August 3rd is the date that our staff will be coming back with that recommendation, so obviously you're all more than welcome to be here that evening as well. So we look forward to it. Thank you very much. I know you want to stick around for the rest of it, so.
August 3rd.
August 3rd. Public hearings, special items and presentations. 4A, ladies and gentlemen, public hearing on the proposed annexation of 00 North 849 and 00 North 859, Old Kirk Road, Geneva, Illinois. I'll entertain a motion to open the public hearing.
So moved.
Alderman Bruno makes the motion. Alderman Swanson makes the second to open the public hearing. Madam Recording Secretary, please take the roll to open the public hearing.
Bruno,
Aye.
Burkhart,
Burkhart, aye.
Ruby. Aye. Caven,
Aye.
Kilberg.
Aye.
Maladra,
Maladra, aye.
Marks,
Marks, aye.
Swanson.
Aye.
The public hearing is open. This opportunity is for anyone joining us this evening to ask any questions or make any statements regarding this matter. Seeing none, hearing none, none's come through over the email.
No, sir.
I will entertain a motion to close the public hearing.
So moved.
Alderman Bruno makes that motion. Alderman Swanson makes the second to close the public hearing. We will require a roll call vote to do so.
Burkhart,
Burkhart, aye.
Ruby. Aye. Caven,
Aye.
Kilberg,
Aye.
Maladra,
Maladra, aye.
Marks,
Marks, aye.
Swanson,
Aye.
Bruno.
Aye.
The public hearing on this matter is closed. We jump to item number 5, ladies and gentlemen, amendments to the agenda. Are there any amendments this evening? Item number 6 is the omnibus agenda. All items marked with an asterisk are considered to be routine and can be considered and acted upon with one motion. Is there such a motion?
So moved.
Alderman Bruno makes the motion. Alderman Swanson, I sense a trend, makes the second. I know. Madam Recording Secretary, roll call, please.
Ruby. Aye. Caven,
Aye.
Kilberg,
Aye.
Maladra,
Maladra, aye.
Marks,
Marks, aye.
Swanson,
Aye.
Bruno,
Aye.
Burkhart.
Burkhart, aye.
The omnibus agenda passes with 8 affirmative votes, 1 absent. Item number 10, other items and correspondence, folks, none. Item 11, municipal bills for payment. We kindly ask our recording secretary to read the bills for our consideration.
Bills for payment total $4,454,602.27.
Mayor, I move that we approve and pay the bills as read. The individual items that add up to that amount can be found in tonight's packet on the city website.
Alderman Bruno makes the motion to pay the bills as presented and quickly seconded. It's just horrific, isn't it? By that quick man Caven.
All right.
Roll call, please.
Quick man Caven,
Aye.
Kilberg,
Aye.
Maladra,
Maladra, aye.
Marks,
Marks, aye.
Swanson,
Aye.
Bruno,
Aye.
Burkhart,
Burkhart, aye.
Ruby. Aye.
The bills have been paid, folks, with 8 affirmative votes and 1 absent. Item 13A, presentations of ordinances, resolutions, and petitions and bids, is to consider ordinance number 2020-21, authorizing the execution of an annexation agreement by and among Kramer and Sons LLC, the owner, Margaret K. Bussey, the tenant, and the City of Geneva. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Alderman Caven makes the motion,
Second.
seconded by Alderman Ruby. This matter is on the floor. A brief explanation, ladies and gentlemen, by our city administrator, Stephanie Dawkins.
So it's going to be a little longer than brief, but I am covering all 3 items, A, B, and C. Although there are 3 separate items to be considered, they're all tied together. So again, these 3 items are related to a proposed annexation of 30-acre property located east of Old Kirk Road, immediately south of the Union Pacific Railroad West Line in unincorporated Kane County. The property is currently located in the F and F2 farming districts and is improved with a single-family residence, attached garage, shed, small and large barn, and 2 apartments and offices. The proposed annexation is voluntary and was initiated by the City of Geneva to further its long-range planning goals and strategic plan objectives. The petitioners are requesting I-1 light industrial zoning with the existing rural uses deemed legal nonconforming under the provisions of the city's zoning ordinance. The proposed annexation is consistent with the city's comprehensive plan, the Southeast Sub-Area Plan, and the strategic plan. The agreement provides for a waiver of annexation and zoning fees and the ability to connect to city utilities without tap-on fees once utilities are available. The benefits of the proposed annexation to the City of Geneva include acquiring future industrial land, improving contiguity for future annexations, and gaining a needed public utility easement. The Planning and Zoning Commission unanimously recommended approval of the requested zoning map amendment upon annexation. So again, tonight, there are 3 separate items for the City Council's consideration: the annexation agreement, the actual annexation, and then a zoning map amendment. This evening, we do have Director Timoshenko here to answer any questions, and is the applicant here as well, or? Oh, yes, great, and the applicant is here as well, so it's in front of the council now.
We have a motion by Caven and a second by Ruby. Are there any questions or comments for either the Director of Economic Development? Anyone remotely? Alderman Marks.
Just one quick question, Kathy. In the executive summary, and I couldn't find it in the agreement, it says the petitioners have also requested some tax abatements. What tax abatements? I didn't see that in the agreement. Did I miss it?
I can look for the section, but what it is
That just,
it's
Go ahead.
future property tax for the Geneva portion of the future property tax bill. We're agreeing to abate that for a 5-year period.
okay,
It's,
thank you.
It's about
That's okay.
approximately $5,700.
All right, thank you.
Anyone else from the dais or remotely? Questions for Director Timoshenko? Any questions for our guests? I believe Ms. Bussey, correct? Correct. Any questions for Ms. Bussey this evening? Seeing none, hearing none, we have a motion and a second on the floor. Roll call vote, please.
And I would note this is the corporate authority, so the mayor is able to vote. Kilberg,
Aye.
Maladra,
Maladra, aye.
Marks,
Marks, aye.
Swanson,
Aye.
Bruno,
Aye.
Burkhart,
Burkhart, aye.
Ruby,
Aye.
Caven,
Aye.
and Mayor Burns.
Aye.
It's 9 affirmative votes.
The motion passes with 9 affirmative votes, 0 nay votes, and 1 absent. Item 13B, which we've just heard the brief description, consider ordinance number 2020-22, annexing certain territory to the City of Geneva. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Motion by Bruno, seconded by Swanson. Way to go, Caven. We've had an explanation, ladies and gentlemen. Any questions for the director? Ms. Timoshenko? For the city administrator? For the police officer? Any questions for the police officer? Roll call, please. 2/3 as well.
Maladra,
Maladra, aye.
Marks,
Marks, aye.
Swanson,
Aye.
Bruno,
Aye.
Burkhart,
Burkhart, aye.
Ruby,
Aye.
Caven,
Aye.
Kilberg,
Aye.
Mayor Burns.
Aye. With item 13B passes with 9 affirmative votes, 0 nay votes, and 1 absent. Item 13C, as in Charlie, consider ordinance number 2020-23, granting a zoning map amendment from F and F2 farming districts, unincorporated Kane County, to I-1 light industrial district upon annexation for 30-acre property located east of Old Kirk Road, immediately south of the Union Pacific West Line. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Motion by Swanson,
Second.
seconded by Bruno. Questions or comments for either the director, the city administrator, or our officer?
And this one is just the city council,
Simple majority.
simple majority.
Roll call vote, please.
Marks,
Marks, yes.
Swanson,
Aye.
Bruno,
Aye.
Burkhart,
Burkhart, aye.
Ruby,
Aye.
Caven,
Aye.
Kilberg,
Aye.
Maladra.
Maladra, aye.
Item 13C passes with 8 affirmative votes, 0 nay votes, and 1 absent. Ladies and gentlemen, unless there's any other business, I would entertain a motion to adjourn this council meeting.
So moved.
Alderman Bruno makes the motion. All in favor will require a roll call vote. Madam Recording Secretary.
Hold on 1 second. Swanson,
Aye.
Bruno,
Aye.
Burkhart,
Burkhart, aye.
Ruby,
Aye.
Caven,
Aye.
Kilberg,
Aye.
Maladra,
Maladra, aye.
Marks.
Marks, aye.
We're going to take a 1-minute recess, ladies and gentlemen, and convene for the Committee of the Whole meeting. Microphones are turned off. It's my pleasure to open the Committee of the Whole meeting and let the record show that all the aldermen, save for McGowan, are present this evening, either live here in the chamber or remotely, which of course is permitted during these unusual times. So, with that, any new business or public comment from anyone in the audience joining us tonight about anything? Yes, sir.
I recognize you.
Sadly, yes.
Treated me with respect. I didn't think you knew who I
No,
was.
I knew who you were. Why do you think the officers here?
Chuck Biles, 1015 Westfield Course. I'm sure most of you are surprised I wasn't here last week at this time. We did watch it live. I did want to thank all of you for the work and frustration that you've had to go through on this project so far. Unfortunately, that's kind of the nature of affordable housing. A couple of you have been through this with the Campana project, so probably weren't surprised, but it's still very frustrating. And I did want to, from a personal standpoint, let you know that I and most of the citizens of Geneva trust you to do the right thing. We respect you to get the facts and do the right thing. And even though I may not agree with you all the time, there should never be a question of integrity or transparency from this council. And there isn't in my mind. Most of the transparency issues seem to be more of people not paying attention. But that's my personal opinion. Before I go on a little bit, I also want to thank Mayor Burns for his comments about Becky Furnish. We were very close friends, like a couple others of you in here, I think. We were very fortunate. Becky was our daughter's first grade teacher and also taught one of our 2 boys. I think if there's any good that comes out from someone like, there's a lot of good that comes out from somebody like Becky, but there's a lot of teachers that she has mentored and coached and helped through all these years, and they're still in Geneva schools, so we're very fortunate for that. So I want to thank you for that. Also, I'm here really for the update to the Homes of the Changing Region, which you would probably all expect me to be here. And really, part of the reason I came was last week, all of you heard about all the people that came in here and talked about how they were not opposed to affordable housing and they wanted to find a way to make this work in Geneva. I don't see many of those people here tonight, so it just kind of makes me wonder. That's it.
Thank you, Mr. Miles. Anyone else? Anything on your mind? Questions, comments? Very well. We'll move forward with items of business, folks. Item 3A is to consider draft resolution approving the Development Economic Incentive Agreement by and between the City of Geneva and Industry House LLC. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Motion by Alderman Bruno,
Second.
Second.
Alderman Burkhart gets the second. Caven was slow on the draw. With that, we provide a brief explanation from our friend, the city administrator.
Okay, so Industry House LLC, managed by Cody and Chanel Renkosik, is under contract to purchase 124 West State Street, formerly occupied by Bicycle Heaven and H4 Fitness. The Renkosiks own Burger and Sushi House, also known as Bash, in Ottawa, Illinois, established in July 2013 and relocated and expanded in 2018. Geneva Bash will accommodate approximately 242 guests inside with patio capacity of over 60. 124 West State consists, has been on the market for over 2 years and requires a special buyer in need of a large space and willing to make a significant investment to overcome cost-prohibitive infrastructure, building code, ADA, and life safety challenges. Prior interests in the property have been for sections of the space or by parties unwilling or unable to take on significant investment needed to meet the code requirements and/or consumer preferences. Acquisition and remodeling costs represent an investment of over $3 million. City staff began working with the Rankosics in July 2019 to identify improvements required. The property was brought under contract and a detailed budget prepared. With closing pending, the contract purchaser decided not to move forward due to the high costs associated with the needed improvements. Economic Development worked to bring the parties back to the table for further negotiations. The owner provided price and other concessions, and the contract purchaser further defined obstacles. A public gap financing option was proposed, and a new sales contract was signed contingent on such approval. So the proposed incentive agreement before you this evening includes a sales tax rebate of 75% of the 1% of the municipal retailer's tax collected for a period of 10 years for up to $365,200 in improvement reimbursement. The incentive does not include a rebate of the 1% non-home rule sales tax. The agreement also defers the parking fee in lieu of parking spaces under Section 11-11A4 of the Geneva City Code and permit fees for a total up to $150,000 to be reimbursed by the municipal sales tax revenues after the owner's rebate. The proposed inducement is an investment into the property, not into the business. Further, no funds will be committed that are not generated by the future business occupying the improved structure. The business will be established only because the property investment was induced. The incentive will create a cycle of investment into the property and the community while also creating a new revenue as well as new attraction for the city of Geneva. This evening, again, we have Director Timoshenko here, and I believe the Rankosics are here, and maybe some other representatives for this deal. So again, they are all present this evening if the council has any questions.
We have a motion by Bruno, a second by Burghardt. Are there any questions for either the director, Ms. Timoshenko, our guests? I'll turn remotely first. Anyone joining us through the Ethernet? Alderman Marks. It's not even Ethernet, is it? Is it really an Ethernet? Sorry.
Just one quick question.
Yes, sir.
Does the incentives stay with the property or is it with just this business?
Yes. Did everyone hear that question okay? The question is, does the incentive stay with the property or with the business?
So what the incentive would pay for, the improvements, would stay with the property. The incentive will only continue for the time that the business is established and operating. So if for some reason the business ceases operation, the city would not be sharing the revenue because it wouldn't be received. What the city would have at the end would be a building in our community that was updated, invested in, and possibly a turnkey for a different end user.
Thank you. That was it.
Alderman Kilberg, and then Swanson, then Maladra.
In light of the fact that we're deferring $150,000 in fees as it relates to the parking matter, have we given any consideration? We have, I believe, 2 or 3 businesses in Geneva that are currently reimbursing the city for parking.
Correct.
In light of the pandemic and the economic hardship that these businesses are under, I would like staff to give some consideration and bring back to the council an idea of what the dollar amount is involved here. And maybe the council might consider deferring their payments, a 2-year moratorium, 24 months, to give these businesses a chance to recover and get back on their feet again. And that we're not waiving the fees, we're essentially deferring those until a point in time when they're probably, hopefully, in a position to deal with that type of service debt. Thank you.
Thank you. Alderman Swanson, then Alderman Maladra.
Thank you, Mayor. I wanted to start out by reminding everyone that we have an economic incentive policy that should guide all of the decisions that we make when we give out economic incentives. And when we do that, we should be following certain considerations and guidelines. The first, which was a little bit touched on by Alderman Kilberg, the policy shall be applied equally to new or existing businesses. Moving on, new jobs that will be provided by the project shall be reviewed according to the number and quality. And just as a note, it is stated that this project will generate 85 to 100 jobs that generate approximately $23,000 salaries, which again, we have to look at the quality of those jobs. Moving on, revenue increases will be calculated by the net gains in retail sales. A question was asked earlier today about the revenue being generated by this restaurant, and that it was all 100% of it was considered to be incremental to the city of Geneva. And it seems hard to believe that no other restaurants in the city of Geneva will be impacted by a competitor opening down the street. I think all of us have walked down 3rd Street or elsewhere on a Saturday night, and if there was an hour wait to get in, we'd move on down the line. That's lost business. So to say that 100% will be incremental, I don't think is true. And when we're applying sales tax incentives, it only works if 100% is incremental. And if sales are being cannibalized from other restaurants that are paying 100% of the tax, Geneva is being negatively impacted. And finally, and probably the most importantly, the criteria that we should be applying is the opportunity does not negatively affect existing commercial development. So again, that's getting at the incremental sales aspect of this restaurant. So my question, I guess for either the restaurateurs or for Kathleen is, why do we think that 100% of the sales of this new restaurant will be incremental to the city of Geneva?
The way that we look at it is what is being produced by the property today. You have no sales tax coming from the property for several years since Bicycle Heaven shut down. So you have no sales tax being generated. Doing this investment would result in new sales tax. I understand your concern. I believe that Geneva's market is a wider market, and we are a restaurant destination. Therefore, we will have business coming from within the community that would have gone to other restaurants, but we also have an opportunity to grow. We have a business that is a destination business that will draw new people to Geneva. Those people will come, maybe they'll select Bash to dine in instead of a different restaurant on that particular evening, but it doesn't mean that they won't come back and enjoy that other restaurant. There'll be new diners that are coming because they've heard of Bash. There'll be an interesting new type of food that we don't have right now. We've got some leakage with respect to sushi. You don't have that kind of food being offered on a wide scale menu that Bash will be providing. So yes, there's always some ebb and flow, but I think that the benefits will be net benefits. It's also interesting to note, and we wrote this in the question, is that the city of Geneva has seen increases in restaurant tax for a period of over 5 years. We continue to get more tax contributed to food and beverage over a period of years. Over 5 years, it's been over 12% growth. And with that, we've had several new restaurants. And what we look at when we talk about new restaurants is not restaurants that have come and backfilled existing restaurant space. We look at actual new build-outs of restaurants. So within that period of time, and I'll check my notes, we've had 7 new restaurant build-outs. So those are restaurants that were never here before, that took spaces that were used alternatively and created new restaurant space. So within that time, we brought 7 new restaurants in, and we still had an increase of sales tax in the restaurant category. So we have potential to grow. Geneva's a destination. This will be an attraction, another reason to come to Geneva, offering more space than a lot of restaurants have for larger parties, for larger family events. It will be an attraction. So that is how we look at it. We look at it from those few lenses. And because the investment is into the property remains in Geneva. It's an investment into the future of the community.
So again, I guess you're saying you don't know that 100% of the sales will be incremental. You're banking on that we're a destination restaurant location. I'm not certain that I agree that 100% would be. I guess the other aspect of this deal right now is that we are dealing with a current pandemic with all of our restaurateurs hurting very deeply. And we have offered them a little bit, as much assistance as we can as a city, some of it being $15 off their monthly water bills. Yet here, we're offering a new competitor $500,000 of incentives to build in the community and be competitors. And I think the optics of that at this moment in time is not supporting our existing businesses. So, thank you.
Alderman Maladra.
Thank you. So Kathleen, what I'd like to explore a little bit is this idea of the city investing in the improvements to the property. At one time, not so long ago, or maybe several years ago, it's hard to track, we talked about establishing business district, which would generate funds for the type of modernization that you see taking place at this building. And that with almost universal opposition, so we didn't do it. So I'm not sure that I'm entirely comfortable with the idea that it becomes the city's responsibility to see that modernization takes place. Have we done anything like this with any other business?
I'm sorry, I didn't catch the last part.
I believe the last point of the question was, have we done this for other businesses? Is that correct, Mr. Maladra?
It is.
Yes, we have done this for other businesses, and we're trying to create a cycle of investment. So you have improvements that are needed to the building in order to bring forward the new tenant. And you're having the future taxes of that new tenant pay for the building improvements. So you're creating a cycle of investment. We have done this for other businesses. We did do this for other restaurants in the downtown. We've done this for other investments along 3rd Street, north and south. We've done it for another State Street property. So it is something that we've done. We really do try to find other ways. This is always the last type of thing that we look at. If there's a way to assist in other fashions, we definitely look at that. Like we said at the beginning of this, if we did not think that this was viable without some type of inducement, we wouldn't be here. It did go under contract and it went away, and we tried to create a creative way to bring it back. The problem is that, like we talked about at strategic planning and like you just spoke about, because Geneva's not a home rule municipality and because we don't have a TIF district or a business district, we don't have the ability to tap into a lot of different tools. One such tool that is available to us is a sales tax rebate, and it's only available to us if certain circumstances are present. On this particular property, the circumstances are present, and it is something that we could do to create a circle of investment. The issue is that you've got a lot of vacancies on State Street that we have worked to try to tackle. And each one has brought forward a unique solution. We brought something forward to consider for Air Days. It did not include a sales tax rebate, but it did include a code modification that was able to be achieved through an appeal. We worked to try to promote the investment at Nobel House and also at Air Days by approving a new transformer and some electric improvements there. We've looked to do this. We helped the new brewery further down in the ACE Center. So we've been trying to tackle the State Street vacancies on a case-by-case basis, the best way we can with the people that we have interested in investing. We do have somebody who is interested in investing in this building. They have a great track record with their business presently in a destination community. This could bring forward the kind of investment that's needed to reverse disinvestment, which is what we have right now. And we would pay for it by creating this cycle of investment. So that's really what we're looking at, proposing right now.
Okay, so I understand that, and the fact that investment is necessary is something we've talked about for years, ever since proposing the business district. So I understand the concept. When we look at the investment required for this property, I forget the numbers exactly, but the portion, percentage-wise of the total investment that's coming from the city, do you know what percentage that ends up being? So like it's $3 million is the total investment, and the total cost of the sales tax rebate is like $300,000, I think you said?
Yes.
Okay, so that's the percentage we're kicking in. Also, we've heard from all the businesses along states that the problem caused by the vacancies. They call it the breaks in business flow. So I think that seeing the vacancy flows down, not just the city from the generation of tax, where there is no tax today, but we know from what other businesses have said, it also benefits their business for the continual flow of traffic. It's not there due to the vacancy. So I appreciate all Constance's point about the hardship that all businesses are facing due to the pandemic. But again, as a non-home rule community, anything that we might want to do for those businesses, we can't do. This is something that we can do, and it's for a long-term investment in the city as a whole. So I think for that reason, I support it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Alderman Maladra, anything else, sir?
Nope, that's it. Thanks.
Anyone else? Oh, Alderman Bruno, yes, sir.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Kathleen. First, this is a particularly challenging corridor.
Mike, is your microphone on, sir?
Apparently it is. I'm inhaling my mask here. It's a particularly challenging corridor. So I think coming into this, I'm more open than usual for these types of incentives, but I do have a couple of questions. And I think Alderman Maladra made a good point too, that we faced incredible opposition to the other tool, a business district, a tax that we could, equitably make these downtown improvements. This really is one of the very few things that we have in our tool belt. On the issue of the parking, I read it a couple times. Maybe it's just my advancing age. I'm not quite sure how it times out here. Is the parking in lieu of, is that reimbursed? Is part of that deferred sales tax go into there right away, or do we rebate the 300-some thousand dollars first, and then they start paying into that fund?
Yes, when they pay their taxes, we are going to take the tax dollars and divide them into different funds. So from the 1% that we're going to be using, we're going to take 75% of that and rebate that to the property owner up until they hit their cap. And then after that time, we're going to put it into the other funds in the city. We're
Okay.
not going to touch the non-home rule portion, so that portion's just going to continue to be distributed as normal.
Okay, so I did understand that correctly.
Correct.
So and you're saying that is with the property owner, not the tenant?
Correct, that is with Industry LLC, who is
Okay.
purchasing the property.
And if Industry LLC were to, if that property were to change hands before that cap was met, does that pass on as a lien with the property? Or do we just miss out on that parking in lieu of money, if I stated myself?
As long as there's a BASH, the business is operating there, we would take those tax dollars and apply
Okay.
them. Should the restaurant stop operating and the property owner sell the property before the money was paid back, then we would have no source to pay back the fund.
Okay, so that doesn't become a lien. So that's, this is the first in my experience that we've had this type of structure for that parking in lieu of.
If I may, Mike?
Sure.
It's not unlike, though, other agreements we've made with people that are paying their parking over time. That doesn't become a lien either if that business were to go out. So we have a couple agreements where they're paying part of the parking every 6 months. If sometime before that was paid in full, that too would just go away.
But
So it's similar to this, just a different way of how it's getting
I
paid.
get it, but at least those other businesses, from the get-go, we're getting a trickle into that fund over time, whereas we could be looking at 7 years before we see any money into that fund. Which I'm sure the restaurant will be a great success, will be here for 30 years or more. Well, that was, I've got my question answered on that. One thing we haven't seen, do you have physical plans? I don't think I saw them in the packet for the restaurant, if I could ask
Sure, would you
the
like?
owners.
The Renkoziks are with us tonight, and by all means, we welcome you to the podium.
Well, thank you. Well, thanks
Good
for having
evening.
us as well.
Thank you very much.
So you're going to be going up with this, is that right? Is that going to be an open deck, an enclosed space? Or-
There would be open air dining, so to speak, as in like garage doors that could go open with screens that go down to keep it food safe.
Okay, so at some point, maybe in an earlier conversation, there's no like rooftop.
No,
but there's the
second.
No, there's no rooftop, but the upstairs of the warehouse would be
Okay,
used for
so
dining.
this is, okay, main floor, basement, kitchen,
Yes.
that type of thing. Okay, and I'd like to reserve the ability to call them back up to tell us about their business later, if that's appropriate.
Yeah, unless, does anyone else have any questions for either the director or the Alderman Caven for the,
I have a couple of questions
for Kathleen? Okay. Thank you, folks.
Yep.
So what I heard was 7 stories and open air. That's what I heard.
With affordable housing on?
Kathleen. Alderman Caven, floor is yours.
I was gonna say, that was last week, Mike. You know, I guess listening to Alderman Swanson and Alderman Kilberg, I know that we have done deals like this before, and I know that we are limited in what we're able to do to try to drive some of this economic development. Do we know, I know we've done this in the past, but the total for this, and I realize it's relative to what the overall investment amount is, but is the percentage of what we're doing here sort of in line with other incentives that we provided for some of those businesses that you mentioned?
Yes, when you look at the total cap. So in a lot of our other sales tax rebates, we've done 50-50 splits, with the exception of one that we did a 90-10 split, 90 to the advantage of the owner. So we did look at that. That was our starting point for this development, the 50-50 of the 1%. That could not make the finances work. And so we had to look at adjusting that. So that is unique to this property. But when you look at the cap amount, that is not with rate, in comparison with the total investment, that is very comparable to what we've done before.
Okay. I guess part of the reason why I'm asking that is, you know, it's already been brought up, so I don't want to regurgitate the whole thing, but, you know, for the existing business owners that we have, and I realize that as a, you know, as a city, we're limited in what we can do, but, and I also know that this building has been there empty for some time. I guess I have a little bit of concern with what the overall totals are. I agree it would be great to have this building, you know, renovated and moved forward. But if there is, and this is somewhat off topic, but something that, you know, you might be able to bring to us that we could at some point in time do for some of the current businesses that are here, and that have been here for some years, that have already spent their money and have gone through everything they've gone through the last 4 or 5 months, that is definitely something that I would be interested in seeing at some point in time as well.
I appreciate that, and the one thing that I would like to comment is that one of the things that we hear a lot from the existing businesses is about the vacancies on State Street. And the fact that that's kind of the front door to the remaining restaurants that are in the vicinity, that they really want us to work on getting State Street occupied, because the vacancies and disinvestment there detracts from the 3rd Street. So this is something that I think will be well received by the business community, tackling another State Street vacancy.
Okay.
And
thank you.
I appreciate your
Yep,
other
absolutely.
comments.
Anyone else remotely who has not yet spoken wishes to do so? Or anyone else on the dais who has not yet spoken who wishes to do so? Alderman Kilburg.
Just one quick question. Do we have a D&B on the business?
Doing business as?
D&B,
Dun and Bradstreet?
yeah. I
Oh,
mean,
yes, as part of
okay.
their,
Thank you.
as part of their agreement, they are required to provide us information, yes.
Well, round 2, Ren Kozaks, anything you'd like to share with us?
Oh,
Oh, forgive me, Alderman Burkhart, sorry about that.
Oh, no, that's okay. If we could get the restaurant owners to come
Yep.
back to the podium.
Alderman Burkhart, don't panic, there is some animal on top of your filing drawer, so please don't turn around.
Isn't there, why do you keep saying that? I thought I saw one in my basement the other day.
Sorry, Ren Kozak, sorry about that. Alderman Burkhart, the floor is yours.
So thanks for being here tonight. I know Alderman Bruno wanted you to talk about your restaurant, but I wondered, I mean, do you have, can you talk about taking this kind of leap in this economy? I mean, you talk about, you know, a place for large groups and dining for, you know, big events. And I just can't help but think, you know, when do we know when we're going to get back to big events and rehearsal dinners and graduation parties? How are you talking yourself through that, this big decision when you already have a successful place in Ottawa? Why take the chance, I guess is what I'm saying.
Well, we look at it as an opportunity and not a chance. The way our restaurant is designed is we are very spacious and we're not really close-knit to each other. I understand you can't have parties larger of 10 at the moment, but, with 6 feet of distance, we can still have well over 200 seats inside. We actually designed it, they're already 5 feet apart, so we aren't losing much. And going through this as a restaurant, just like everybody else, we voluntarily shut down for 5 weeks. But since we reopened, people are going out. People are going out. They are continuing to dine. Everywhere. All businesses are doing well. I feel like maybe some other ones would agree if you had the opportunity to speak with them. But it reminds me a lot of our hometown, and it just feels good here. I don't know how to say it. We've looked at many other towns, St. Charles, Batavia, New Lenox, Mokina, Bloomington. We looked at the Little Owl before, and it just it just feels good. I don't know. I guess I'm not really answering your question too much, but
No, you obviously have confidence, like.
We're
that's
confident
probably
in what
why
we
you're in the
do.
Restaurant business, I'm not, so.
yes.
What do you like about that particular building and location?
If you were to look at our current location now, it's very similar to exactly what we have, but like flip-flopped, and the additional warehouse on the top. So it's a building that, of course, we would gut down completely and start over and make it what maybe it was meant to be for years, and it just hasn't had the opportunity. It's right downtown. We are currently right downtown where we are in Ottawa. High traffic, just, good spot.
And economically, this just won't work without these incentives?
No, had it worked, we would have closed a year ago when we decided to back up. But once you got in there and do the due diligence, and even with the seller willing to work with us and come down, it's a big investment in the building itself. It's just a large number, but the return is great. And a question that was mentioned earlier, these figures were based not off of the purchase price, but the gross sales that we are supposed to be bringing in, that 1%. So, where it says 10 years, I would imagine you guys will be seeing your money before 10 years for the 150,000 for parking. And that was just if we took up 10 spots, which would probably be less. And I have no idea how much permits are, so there was just 50,000 in case they're 50,000 or potentially less.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. Alderman Bruno, anything else?
Thank you, Mayor. Of
course.
Normally, it's when you're pulling permits or licenses, but while you're up here, what's the elevator speech on your restaurant?
I don't know. So, well, we opened 7 years ago, just Sunday. We wanted the idea of bringing sushi to an area, which is the same thing we're trying to do here. And what we did was decided to pair it with burgers for the reason is you see a lot of steakhouses and, people, not everybody likes sushi. We get that. So we are predominantly a sushi restaurant that offers gourmet American food. We have a great sushi chef that is phenomenal at what he does. The big thing is this is an investment in the community and not just us. I wouldn't look at it as us. We buy from local butchers, butchers, farms, breweries. We donate to schools, youth sports, fundraisers. Right now, my wife's an ambassador and president of Rotary. So, we're pretty involved in the community. It's not just we're coming here to, take this incentive and, do our own thing, but we want to be involved in the community that we are, and we like this community.
Thank you.
Anyone else for the Renkozics or for the director? Remotely, I don't see anything, I don't hear anything. Oh, Alderman Ruby, excuse me.
Thank you. Just curious, you made a comment about the Little Owl, and you don't have to answer this, but what is it about this space versus, going into an existing vacant restaurant?
Most of the restaurants aren't large enough to what we're trying to do. it's a big building, but when you get in there, we'll find out it's probably not big enough. Usually that's how that works, like, space.
Okay,
Space and layout, like where we can gut that and have it wide open and we can do whatever we want with it. You know what I mean? Where some of them, it's already existing. This is what you have. You're going to be known as, oh, it's that old restaurant. You know what I mean? That used to be the old restaurant, or it's in this building, you know.
That makes sense. Okay, thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, we have a motion by Bruno, we have a second by Burghardt. When Stephanie is ready, please take the roll call.
Bruno,
Aye.
Burkhart,
Burkhart, nay.
Ruby,
Aye.
Caven,
Aye.
Kilberg,
Aye.
Maladra,
Maladra, aye.
Marks,
Marks, aye.
Swanson,
Nay.
The motion passes with 6 affirmative votes, 2 nay votes, and 1 absent. Thank you very much. Item 3B, folks, consider draft resolution authorizing bids for an annual purchase of cable for the 2021 and 2022 fiscal years as presented. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Motion by Bruno. Seconded by Swanson. Ms. Dawkins?
Okay, so I'm actually going to, again, for purposes of economies of scale,
Okay.
give you a summary for both B and C, since they're both related to annual purchasing requirements for the electric utility. Bids were received for the annual purchase of cable. The cable prices are lower than last year, largely due to de-escalation in metal prices. Staff recommends award of the purchase of cable to Annexter, as outlined in the agenda packet. Purchases would be on an as-needed basis. The second item for the Committee of the Whole's consideration is the bid award for the annual purchase of transformers and switchgear, also outlined in the agenda packet. Transformer bids were evaluated based on lowest cost meeting the Department of Energy efficiency standards. Again, purchases would only be on an as-needed basis. This evening, we do have Superintendent Wright with us to answer any additional questions you might have.
On item 3B, ladies and gentlemen, any questions for the superintendent? Remotely, any questions? Here in the chamber? We have a motion, we have a second. Please take the roll.
Burkhart,
Burkhart, aye.
Ruby,
Aye.
Caven,
Aye.
Kilberg,
Aye.
Maladra,
Maladra, aye.
Marks,
Marks, aye.
Swanson,
Aye.
Bruno.
Aye.
Motion passes with 8 affirmative votes, 0 nay votes, and 1 absent. Item 3C is to consider draft resolution authorizing bids for the annual purchase of transformers and switchgear for fiscal year 21 and fiscal year 22 as presented. We heard a brief summary from Ms. Dawkins already. Is that edification enough for the council, or the committee, excuse me? Any questions or questions for the superintendent?
So moved.
Did I not get a motion on that?
Nope.
Oh, heck, way to go, Bruno. Motion by Bruno, seconded by Ruby. Forgive me. Thank you. Any questions or comments for the superintendent? My apologies. Thank you. Roll call, please.
Ruby,
Aye.
Caven,
Aye.
Kilberg,
Aye.
Maladra,
Maladra, aye.
Marks,
Marks, aye.
Swanson,
Aye.
Bruno,
Aye.
Burkhart.
Burkhart, aye.
Item 3C passes with 8 affirmative votes, 0 nay votes, and 1 absent. Item 3D is to consider draft resolution authorizing a contract with Stark & Son Trenching in the amount not to exceed $150,000 for Ridge Lane drainage improvements. Is there a motion? Motion by Caven, seconded by
Second.
Swanson. Oops. Ms. Dawkins.
Okay, so the city received a grant from the Illinois Department of Commerce and Economic Opportunity to install a new sewer drainage main along east side of Ridge Lane. When the project was bid, the bids were favorable, and staff has requested a change in scope of the project from Illinois DCEO to extend the storm sewer an additional 300 linear feet to the north. Staff is confident that with the unit price received in the original bid, project bid letting, the additional work can be completed within the original grant budgeted amount. This evening, we have Assistant Public Works Director and City Engineer Schreiber, and I think we also have Director Babica if you have any additional questions.
Questions or comments for either Mr. Schreiber or Mr. Babica? Anyone remotely? Anyone present in the chamber? We have a motion. We have a second. Roll call, please.
Caven,
Aye.
Kilberg,
Aye.
Maladra,
Maladra, aye.
Marks,
Mark's aye.
Swanson,
Aye.
Bruno,
Aye.
Burkhart,
Burkhart, aye.
Ruby.
Aye.
Item 3D passes with 8 affirmative votes, 0 nay votes, and 1 absent. Our last item tonight, ladies and gentlemen, item 3E as in Edward, consider draft resolution adopting the 2020 Affordable Housing Plan. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Bruno makes the motion, seconded by Ruby. Ms. Dawkins.
Okay, so the Affordable Housing Planning and Appeals Act was signed into law in 2003 to encourage local governments to incorporate affordable housing into their communities. The act requires that municipalities in which affordable housing represents less than 10% of the entire housing stock prepare, adopt, and submit affordable housing plans to the Illinois Housing Development Authority. In December 2018, Geneva was identified as a non-exempt community with 7.7% of the city's total housing stock considered affordable. The plan before you this evening will meet Geneva's requirements to comply with the Affordable Housing Planning and Appeals Act. For more questions or comments, Director DeGroot is also here this evening. So there you have it.
Questions for the city administrator or our Director of Community Development, Alderman Swanson?
Thank you, Mayor. I think this is for Director DeGroot. First question, when do we have to file this plan?
The deadline that we were given was June 28th of 2020. We requested a 60-day extension due to the COVID outbreak. We had originally planned to update our Homes for a Changing Region plan, which included the affordable housing plan back in 2014. But when COVID hit, we put that aside, requested the extension, and decided to do this plan in-house.
Okay. And I guess the question I have is the update of the map. And I think we initially did a map in 2013 with Homes for a Changing Region. I believe there was an update in 2015, and then this is the third iteration of that map?
Correct.
Of sites that are potential affordable housing sites. And since 2015, we have deleted many of the sites, which some of them have been developed. However, we have left some of the sites that have had new housing built on them. In addition, it seems to me like most of our sites are the industrial properties in the downtown of Geneva. And so my question is, does that make sense? Will they become affordable housing? And are we selling ourselves short by not including potential commercial properties? We have virtually nothing along the Randall Road corridor, even though in my mind, that's probably the segment of buildings that are most at risk of going vacant and might be the most, the next generation of houses or housing that could be modified. So my question is this the best we can do on a map, or should we take a closer look at it? It seems to me the 2015 iteration was basically housekeeping, and this isn't much different. So the questions are, do we only include the industrial properties in Geneva? Do we not include commercial properties? And should we exclude some of the areas that have seen development that have been maintained? So in order to do that, is it possible to table the approval of this plan until we can take a closer look at the map? And I would propose an amendment to do just that.
A motion, are you offering a motion to table?
I would like to table to a date certain that we can take a closer look at this map to see if we could do a better job with identifying sites within the city of Geneva.
A motion to table does require a second. There is no debate if a second is offered. Seconded by Alderman Ruby to table. A date certain, Mr. City Attorney? Yeah. Do you have a date certain?
Well, as long as it would take that we could take a closer look at the properties or add or delete, so 2 to 4 weeks, if that would still be within the time frame of filing this.
Is it August 28th, the due date?
The next city council meeting?
The next city council meeting or committee of the whole meeting?
Committee of the whole.
How long,
Yes, sir.
how long of an extension do we receive?
We requested 60 days to
So
August.
is that August 28th?
August 28th.
Right.
So we could review it again on August 3rd and still meet that deadline.
Okay. August 3rd, satisfy the motion and the seconder?
That would be fine.
No discussion, no debate, simple roll call, and a simple majority concurs with the motion to table till August 3rd.
Kilberg,
Aye.
Maladra,
Ladra, aye.
Marks,
Mark's aye.
Swanson,
Aye.
Bruno,
Aye.
Burkhart,
Burkhart, aye.
Ruby,
Aye.
Caven.
Aye.
Motion to table this matter to August 3rd is successful with 8 affirmative votes, 0 nay votes, and 1 absent.
May we ask a question about it now?
Mr. City Attorney, can we ask a question about that matter now? It has been tabled? No, we're good?
So that we don't come back on August 3rd with the same information, I think it would be helpful for staff to have input from the council to know, I mean, if you have specific properties in mind that you want to include, then that, we should know that. If you want specific properties that should not be included, that's the council's prerogative as well. But certainly I know that David and his team of one right now, can look at the commercial corridors and look at where you were saying, but I think also it would be helpful to have input from the city council so that we're not at the same place when we come back next week or 2 weeks from now.
I would be happy to share my thoughts on that. I think we should take a harder look at this every time we look at it as opposed to just doing housekeeping. So I appreciate the time to do this in a more thorough manner. Thank you.
Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen. Oh, Alderman Marks, yes, sir.
Yeah, I just have, David, and if I'm out of line, Mayor, please let me know, but in the document, it says that we can highlight properties that are within our jurisdiction, and there's a couple of them that have black solid lines around them that look like they're outside of our jurisdiction. Specifically over by Viking Drive and Caneville Road. And there's one just to the east of that. Are those within the city boundaries, or are those actually outside of our jurisdiction?
There are some properties that are not within our jurisdiction, not within the corporate limits today, but they're within our planning jurisdiction. So should they be developed, they would be annexed into the city and be part of our corporate limits. So that's why they're within our planning jurisdiction.
Oh, so it's just the planning jurisdiction that we can use, okay. And then just one other question, Mayor, and this one you might say is out of line. Do we contact all of the owners of these properties to let them know and get comments from them in a matter of transparency?
Well, that is a good question. The reality is, I believe that answer is probably no.
We have not, no.
We have not.
Don't we think we should?
Well, let me ask you this. If in fact Alderman Swanson's position is, and I think it's a very intriguing one too, and our former colleague Alderman Clemens talked about this quite often, that if in fact we see a tectonic shift in the Randall Road corridor, for example, could that not be a suitable development opportunity for market rate or affordable housing? Maybe. How do you propose we notify everyone other than simply notifying everyone through a blast saying the entire community is subject to identification of opportunities for affordable housing?
Well, I would just say if we're highlighting these properties, we have to have tax pin numbers or addresses that we can at least send them a letter making them aware that, and do some education so they don't get scared by it.
Okay.
I mean, if I was a owner of one of these properties and I opened up this map, there probably might be a little bit of confusion and concern about this. So, if we could let them know what we're doing and at least give them some education in regards to it, I think it might be helpful and help with the transparency of this kind of a project.
Comments, David, on that? For anyone?
I guess, I mean, in the past, we've had property owners reach out to us about why their properties are identified on the map, and through those conversations, and we explain that it's not identified as the desired future land use, and that's the only thing the city will consider on the property. It's identifying sites that are vacant, city-owned, have redevelopment potential for housing, including affordable housing. So it's not, I don't think it carries the same weight as like a land use designation in the comprehensive plan. It's identifying those lands that may be suitable, not a definitive statement that these are lands that will be developed for affordable housing.
So currently on the homes for a changing region, we have approximately 35?
Sure.
Okay. Alderman Marks, would you allow us to come back on August 3rd with a recommendation and perhaps some additional conversation about exactly how to do that?
Yeah, I have no problem coming back. I just didn't want to delay it if it was
No,
going,
no, no.
I don't want us to say yes and that caused the delay in the vote. That's why I'm asking the question tonight, Mayor.
Yeah, we'll address that specifically. Yes, Alderman Caven.
Okay.
Alderman
Yeah,
Burkhart next.
when you say part of the line of something that is suitable for redevelopment, and I know you mentioned, Randall Road and a lot of the different commercial businesses, well, if you're talking about something that can potentially be redone, how is it that you wind up looking at that? Because you could basically just make a line down both sides of, Randall Road where there's commercial buildings all the way down the whole corporate limits. So are we gonna list every big box store that's down the whole street? I mean, I'm just curious how.
Well, I think you underscored my point. Should we not just draw a line around the entire 10 square miles of the city and say, guess what?
Well, that's what I mean in talking with the map, and I understand Alderman Swanson wanting to make sure that it's detailed and it's updated and it's thorough, but if the parameters are it's either vacant or it's something that can be redeveloped, oh, okay, you're right. In individual city lot, if you were looking at multi-units or something, obviously wouldn't work, but if those are what the parameters are, I don't know how really anything gets excluded that's not just in a small residential neighborhood.
R1 or
Maybe I'm thinking about this incorrectly, but.
Well, I mean, we look at it in conjunction with our other adopted planning documents, the comprehensive plan, the downtown station area master plan, and there are areas that we've identified as industrial or commercial, and we want to see that stay that way then long term. So those are areas we don't take a hard look at for affordable housing.
Understood.
But if the desire is to come back with a more detailed look at of those properties that are on the map, we can certainly do that. And we could certainly go back and try to identify other areas that might have opportunities and present those for consideration.
Before I recognize Alderman Burkhart, I think the bottom line is anyone who has any comments, questions, suggestions, or reach out to David. Alderman Burkhart?
Yeah, that was exactly what I was going to touch on. Ms. Dawkins was obviously saying she wanted feedback tonight, or feedback so that we're not starting this from scratch on August 3rd. So I just wanted to clarify how you want that feedback, and should that be something that board by board alderman talk to David about, or
Yeah,
what's the best way to approach it?
Yeah, I wasn't necessarily saying right tonight that you would have all those answers, but again, to communicate that with David so that he has some feedback and input from you all.
Very good. We can do that. Thanks. Thank you, Mayor.
Yeah, I'm trying to think of whether or not I should ask this question. I was pensive, Mr. Swanson.
That's okay.
Alderman Swanson.
Yeah, I wanted to address Alderman Caven's question. The plan we have, the map we have in effect now identifies many of our industrial properties specifically. And you're saying we shouldn't be doing that for the commercial, but it's already done. For all of the Stephen Street and May Street and downtown, anything that is industrial right now is identified on this map, yet nothing else is on the commercial side. So I think we're not being consistent, and I'm asking us to be consistent, and we're singling out all industrial property as our sites, and I don't think that's fair. I don't think we're being honest to ourselves.
Anyone else before we move on? There is no action to be taken tonight other than Alderman Kilburg being recognized, so.
With,
Sorry, Dean.
with the approval of item 3A this evening, I would just simply ask, I'd make the motion if it would be acceptable to have staff review any of the outstanding parking fees that we have with other businesses in the city, bring that back to the council, and give us an opportunity to vote on whether we want to create a moratorium for a couple of years as it relates to the payment of those fees. If that could be brought to a committee of the whole meeting at some point in time in the near future, I'd appreciate it. That's a motion.
I would caution a second. I did make a note with Stephanie that we're going to do exactly that because that particular item is not on the agenda.
No, it's related though to item 3A though, isn't it?
So that matter's concluded.
Yeah, that matter's been concluded. I don't want to have
A
a,
new business item.
but we have taken notes and we will bring that back, absolutely.
At what point?
Oh, God, 10 years from now, maximum, but
Okay,
ASAP. Yeah, August, no later than August 3rd.
okay, thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, a motion to adjourn is in order. All in favor, roll call vote.
Maladra,
Maladra, aye.
Marks,
Marks, aye.
Swanson,
Aye.
Bruno,
Aye.
Burkhart,
Burkhart, aye.
Ruby,
Aye.
Caven,
Aye.
Kilberg.
All right.
We're adjourned, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you all.